Thank you for joining us for another segment of the Business Wisdom of Ruth. Today, we'll be wrapping up the second chapter of the book of Ruth, looking at verses 19 through 23. And today's principle is don't mistake your point of interest for your destination. Now, before I jump into the text, let's get an understanding of what point of interest is. Many of us have GPS systems in our car or perhaps on our smart device that when we travel from one place to another, intermittently the GPS will say, here's a point of interest. For instance, let's say you're traveling from New York to Georgia. One point of interest might be the Empire State Building as you're moving through New York. When you approach DC, another point of interest might be the brand new National Museum for African American History and Culture. And then you keep going on and it points out other points of interest. However, you know that those are just points of interest and not your destination. Your destination is Georgia. And Ruth could have very easily mistaken where she was for her destination. So let's pick up now, chapter 2, verse 19. Now, Ruth comes back after being in the field. She met Boaz. She's harvested a lot. She's had the opportunity to even have lunch with the rest of the harvesters. And she brings back all of her goods to Naomi. And the New International Version says this. Naomi says, so much. Naomi is super excited about all of the goods that Ruth has brought to her, and rightly so, because it looks like, in Naomi's words, so much. And then Naomi and Ruth continue in this dialogue, and Naomi says, where did you get this from? And Ruth says, it was from Boaz's field, and he told me that I can continue to work alongside the harvesters, and I would be fine. And Naomi concurs. She says, yes. She says, Boaz is actually a kinsman redeemer. Now, let me just put a point right there and explain what kinsman redeemer is. In that time, when someone married and their husband died, the next of kin could now marry that woman so that the lineage of that family could continue on. So I imagine early on, Ruth probably thought, well, this is great because he's showing grace and mercy, allowing me to harvest in the field without interruption. And so this must be the place for me to stay. But for those of us that know the end of the book, we know that that was not her destination. It was only her point of interest. Now, let's take a look at us, right? How do we translate this to today? I don't want you to stop at your point of interest. I want you to go on to your destination. You may be in the midst of your career. Let's say you've got a position at a restaurant. You started out as hostess, perhaps even moved on to server, and now you're in the management position. And it's paying you well. In the words of Naomi, it's paying you so much, right? And so you're feeling really good, you're feeling really confident, but that might only be your point of interest. Your point of interest is an opportunity for you to learn and develop and grow. But your point of interest is not your destination. Your destination may be owning that restaurant. Here's another example of the difference between a point of interest and your destination. I'm getting ready to pick up a really cool hobby. I don't know what has come over me, but I've got this desire to learn pottery. And anybody who knows me knows I love plants. And I thought, wow, this is going to be a great opportunity for me to create my own planters to put my plants in. And I said, oh yes, this is going to be wonderful. But then after I thought about it, I said, wait a minute. Once I master this skill, once I become good at it, I should be able to begin to sell my pottery. So do you hear what I'm saying? It's a point of interest for me at this point where I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm developing, and I am perfecting my skill. But it is certainly not a destination. The destination is something bigger. The destination is something greater. This principle reminds me of the 25th chapter of the book of Matthew, where 3 servants are given measures of talents according to their ability. One was given 5, one was given 3, and one was given 1. When the master came back to check on their progress, 2 out of the 3 were very successful, and because of that level of success, was given even more. However, there was one who did nothing with their talent, and they buried it, and to him, nothing additional was given. I believe that God gives us gifts and talents as points of interest along the way to our destination. He expects for us to grow and develop and nurture those gifts, and as we do, He gives us even more. So eventually, we can arrive at the place that He is predestined for each and every one of us. So today, I hope that you've learned a very valuable lesson, and do not mistake your points of interest for your destination. As always, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again next week.